Well, hello everyone. Welcome to what has become known as Tuesday Night Compassion or Compassion Tuesdays on my Facebook live stream. Switching over mediums here, over platforms and moving over to YouTube because I feel like it's better to record these ahead of time, and then I'll post them on Facebook, other social media. I can share them with all of you who are engaged and listening and who are interested, that you can watch this anytime you want. So not something you really need to be around. At Tuesdays is 6:30 Pacific time, so I think it's just going to be a little bit easier that way. And then also, it's actually helpful for me, so I can record these at any time, ahead of time, and then upload them to my YouTube channel and share them that way, so that in the evenings I've got time to hang out with the family and stuff like that here in Seattle. So that's what I'm going to be doing, and I'm going to try it out and see how it works. So again, we're resuming this, or just kind of continuing where we left off. For those of you who have been kind of with us from the beginning, we're studying and meditating on and cultivating the emotion of compassion and the skill of compassion. And so what we've been doing is just kind of looking, taking a deep dive into what is compassion. Now we're going to shift gears a little bit here. We're going to shift not so much. We're going to be in the same arena, but we're going to kind of shift and open up our topic here into something a little bit wider, and that topic is what is called Bodhicitta. Okay, Bodhicitta. Bodhi means awakened. Citta means mind. It's the mind of awakening. And this is actually the subject and the topic that that my Lama, my teacher, wanted me to begin just kind of giving some basic teachings on. I'm not a super scholar. I do have some experience with the Dharma, with Buddhism. I have spent some time in Asia and India. I was a monk for a while, things like that. But I'm not like super qualified to go really deep into this stuff. I haven't studied like as extensively as many of my teachers have, who have spent many years studying the great seminal texts of bodhicitta, compassion, meditation. But I do feel confident, and I'm very humbled by the fact that my teacher feels confident that I can at least teach some basics about this absolutely incredible, life-changing concept called the mind of awakening, or bodhicitta. And it's something that I believe very strongly, and I've always believed ever since the moment I came across Buddhism and the teachings of the Dharma, that this is really the kind of the solution to all of our problems. Not in a panacea sort of way, not in a subscribe now for $9.99 a month and I'll solve all your problems. Not that way, because it takes a lot of effort to follow this kind of a path of real introspection, looking inside, really examining who we are, what our situation is, and where we want to go, and then really putting some effort into it. So it's not like an easy fix, but I do think that this concept, bodhicitta, the mind of awakening, encompasses so much in our lives, in our minds, and addresses so many of our circumstances, our issues, our problems, and provides real solutions for them, for the suffering that we experience here as human beings. So that being said, we start every class here. It's a 30-minute class with 10 minutes of meditation. So we'll go ahead and do that now, and I'll go ahead and we'll just get started, and we just do some mindfulness meditation to bring ourselves into the present moment, to let things settle down a little bit, so that way we can engage in this subject matter with a little more presence of mind, a little less distraction, because distraction is all around us, and it's really good to learn how to just, take a break from all that distraction, especially these days. So we'll go ahead and do that. If you've never meditated before, no problem, just kind of follow along. I do a guided meditation here. For those of you who are a little bit more experienced, you might find it a little annoying because I'm kind of like talking everyone through it, but it's because I assume that there's always going to be people who are just kind of new to meditation, and so a little bit of guidance, especially in a short 10-minute session, I think can be helpful for people. But if you are more of an experienced meditator, just kind of tune me out and just do your practice. Do your practice of mindfulness, of shamatha, of whatever practice that you've been given. So we just kind of do this again, just kind of settle our minds for a little bit. So go ahead and ring the bell here, and we'll meditate for about 10 minutes, okay? So we just kind of begin by just settling down into our bodies. Just beginning to become aware of where we are right now. I think we can actually go whole days or even weeks or even longer, not even really being aware of the fact that we have a body. It's sort of like a fish swimming in water. We're so conditioned to being in this body that we almost lose sight that here we are. And this is the vessel that our awareness, our consciousness is in right now. And we can kind of go through the day just chasing after all of our little shiny things, and forget that we have this wonderful body. And especially that we have this wonderful process of breathing that we can use as an object of meditation. And we can just bring our awareness to our breathing. And that's really it. We don't need anything else. We don't need any lengthy instructions or directions. We just need to sit in a relatively straight posture, feeling ourselves grounded in our bodies, grounded to the earth, and then pay attention to the breath. And the breath automatically brings us into the present. Brings us into the present moment, because each breath in and each breath out only happens right now. It doesn't happen in the future or the past. And although it is very simple, it's a simple thing to say, oh, just bring your awareness to your breath. It's not necessarily easy. Our minds are a little bit wild, filled with activity and thoughts. Desires, fears, anxieties, worries. Noticing sensations, hearing sounds. It's often said by people who are just starting with meditation, and even people who have been meditating for some time, that once they start the practice, once we start the practice, rather than our perceived goal of kind of calming the mind down, it just seems like actually things are getting worse. And that's because maybe for the first time we're actually looking into our minds and seeing what's actually going on there. And so when we try to bring our attention onto just one thing, the breath, we find that it is very simple. It's a very simple instruction, but it's not so easy sometimes. And we may find that we're able to keep our attention on the breath for one breath or a half a breath even. And then without even recognizing it, we are off and running, chasing something else. Like a shiny lure, and we're a fish, and we dart after it. And then we're hooked. And then there's another thought, and another, and so on. But that's okay. That's the state of our minds right now. And it's actually part of the nature of the mind is to have thoughts. So it's not thoughts that's the problem. It's just the discipline of the mind that we're working with now. The gentle, loving, but firm discipline that we give ourselves by sitting down and bringing our attention over and over again as many times as we need without any sort of criticism or self-deprecation or any of that. Just when we notice that our mind has wandered off of the breath, we come back. And we just say, oh, I'm thinking about something else. But come back to the breath. Because the breath is always there. The breath is always there for us. As long as we're alive, the breath is there for us. So it can always be used as an object for our meditation. So let's just do that now. Let's just bring our attention, our awareness to the breath. For a few minutes, noticing when we've wandered off and coming back as many times as we need. All right. So I want this to be as I want this to be an interactive experience as much as possible. Right now I know that when I'm recording, pre-recording things, and so it's not going to be live interacting, but please, if you have questions about meditation, or if you have questions about anything that we're talking about here, or if you want to share anything, share your experience, or chime in, or disagree with something as well, or question something, please do in the comments down below. I want to engage people in this. This is not just me talking down at people. Goodness knows that's not my place in the world, and nor do I want to be talking, from the perspective of being like, I know something and you don't. I really don't want to do that. I don't believe that's the case in my life and in my practice and in my professional life. I've never found anyone that didn't have something of value, that didn't have something of deep value to share with me and with the world. And so we're all in this together. We're all in this situation in the world right now with the coronavirus pandemic, but beyond that, for all of history and all of the history to come, we're human beings, and we're here sharing this experience of what it is to be a human being. Each of us is unique. Each of us is having their own experience, struggling with their own struggles, accumulating their own wisdom and their own deep insight into what it means to be alive, whether it's using those kind of words or not. I've known people who are not formally educated in any way, who don't have huge vocabularies at all, who haven't read a lot of books, who I'm humbled by. I mean, humbled by their deep insight into what it means to be alive, what it means to be a human being. And so I only say this because I want you to understand that this is not me teaching so much as it is me just facilitating a discussion, facilitating an experience, and us learning together as we go. So please comment. Please share with me your experience. Okay, so once again, we are talking now about Bodhicitta. That's what I'm going to be talking about, just the basics of this idea of the mind of awakening. It's a Buddhist concept. It's a Buddhist, way of life, you could say. It's a Buddhist philosophy and a way of life. And so it's very deep. It goes deep, deep, deep. And there's really no end to the exploration of it, the study of it, the meditation on it, the discussion about it. But mostly it's a practical topic. It's not just something that we talk about in theory and theorize on. It's something that we need to engage in. We need to engage. It's a way of life that we engage in on a day-to-day basis to develop, to grow, to transform. Bodhicitta, the mind of awakening. So I thought I would begin with just a quote here, and it may or may not resonate with anybody, but I just thought I would just kind of start with that as an auspicious way to begin here. And this is a quote. It's from a text called "The Way of the Bodhisattva" by Shantideva. And I want to make clear, I'm not actually teaching on this text in this series of talks and discussions. I'm not qualified to teach on this whole text, but I have been told that it's okay to, from time to time bring up some quotes from this text to just kind of help elucidate things or set the tone or inspire. So it's definitely got all of that in it. And so before going into the definition, if you want, of bodhicitta, well, what is bodhicitta? What is the mind of awakening? What does that mean? Just kind of let that go for a moment. And I just want to read this one verse from this text, and it's a very beautiful text, very erudite text, but also just very poetic too, and just kind of to capture a little bit of the flavor of what this mind of awakening is, and what it means, and how important it is. and what its scope is. So this is verse 8 from chapter 1. Those who wish to crush the many sorrows of existence, who wish to quell the pain of living beings, who wish to have experience of a myriad joys, should never turn away from bodhicitta. So I kind of feel like that that verse, it may sound a bit cryptic at first, but also it may pique one's curiosity. It certainly gets my attention. You know, talking about quelling all the sufferings of the world, and you know, and experiencing myriad joys, and quelling the pain of all beings, of sentient beings. I mean, it's got my interest, you know. It's not necessarily, you know, it's not like a billboard on the highway, you know, a Geico commercial or something like that, but it catches my attention. So what is this? What is this bodhicitta? What is this mind of awakening? Or the mind of enlightenment, as it's sometimes called. And just to start out with, you know, I just want to keep things as simple as possible and not get too, go too deep in the pool yet. And so keep things simple, and I think it's best to keep things simple, even after studying for many years and studying many texts and receiving many teachings. I think it's really important to not get lost in all of that and to actually keep things close to the earth, close to the heart. And so I'm just going to tell you what bodhicitta means to me after some time of studying and trying to practice. This bodhicitta, this mind of awakening, it's an attitude. It's an attitude that we try to cultivate and kind of fold into every aspect of our lives. It's an attitude born out of humility. It's an attitude born out of the humility that we are lost in many ways. We are confused. We are suffering. We are going to die. We don't have it all figured out. And not only that, not only do we experience all that, but with just a little bit of examination and a little bit of heart opening, we see very clearly that everyone else is in the same boat. Or the same storm. And from that humility, then, and that mature realization of the reality of suffering, the reality of impermanence, the reality of death, rather than saying like, oh shit, well screw it, I'm just gonna do, you know, eat as much ice cream as I can, or make as much money as I can, or whatever it is, you know, be a hedonist. Or go the other way and just say, well, you know what, I'm just gonna, you know, commit suicide, or just mope around, you know, depressed until I do die, as an alcoholic or something like that. You know, I know myself. I've been in both of those places, at various points in my life. So we can go those ways, but bodhicitta, the mind of awakening, the mind of enlightenment, gives us a framework to actually choose a different path than that. It gives us this kind of a plan. It's almost as if it's like a, you know, people talk about how we're born and there's no user manual to life. to this human thing, and we're all just kind of have to figure it out. Well, actually, Bodhicitta and the teachings on Bodhicitta, on the mind of awakening, are in a way like that user manual that we've been looking for. Or maybe we gave up looking for a long time ago, or forgot that maybe there might be such a thing. And so this framework for life, it gives us a direction. It gives us a direction for where to put our energies, how to put our energies in that direction. It gives us little warnings, caveats about maybe dangers along the way. It gives us inspiration, especially for when times get tough. Gives us something to hold on to when it feels like despair is the only option. So what is that direction? What is that direction? What is that framework? Well, it's awakening, as you might have guessed. It's awakening from kind of a dark prison of ignorance and self-centeredness that is basically the cause of all of our suffering. There's another quote by Shantideva in this text, and it's a very famous quote in the world of Tibetan Buddhism and beyond as well. And it goes something like, all the sorrows in the world are caused by wishing only for one's own happiness, while all of the joy in the world is caused by wishing the happiness for others. And so you could make a strong argument that that is really the essence of this bodhicitta, this mind of awakening. If you could sum it up in a few short lines, which is actually, there's a lot of short lines out there where you can sum it up, depending on where you are and where you are at any given moment. But that's definitely one of them. It goes right to the heart of what this path is, what this framework is, what this direction is. It addresses the cause of suffering, and it addresses what we need to do if we want to be free from suffering. And so that's what we're going to be talking about here for the foreseeable future. And I've got, impermanence and the certainty of death aside, I've got plenty of time on my hands right now. And I want to talk about this more with you. And we're going to go into a few, specific, verses and angles. We're gonna work it from with this bodhicitta from several different angles, kind of circling around it all the time, always coming back to it, and then kind of going out in different directions, but always coming back to this idea of the mind of awakening and what is that. And what it is it's a framework for our life, and it gives us direction. And it's something that we can always, just like a lamp, just in this darkness and confusion of the world, we can just always if we just turn ourselves to that, in that direction, and we just head there, things are going to be okay. So that's where I'm going to leave it for this evening. It has been great to be here, and I have the camera facing. You know, this is my shrine room here, where down in the basement, and normally I'm facing that way, and so I feel a little bit weird, you know, with my back to the shrine. But I like to have it there just as a reminder, so you know, so y'all can see, and you know, His Holiness the Dalai Lama and some of the other things like that. They get things that, you know, people that give me inspiration, and to just kind of feel like you know, we're getting that support from them as well. Because again, this isn't about, you know, me being a you know, a teacher of any kind. These are the teachers here. So anyway, so that's it for this evening. I'll see you all next week. Again, if you have questions, if you have comments, if you're you know, disagree with anything that I say, you know, respectfully, you know, please, you know, share in the comments below, and I'd like this to be an interactive discussion as much as possible. So all of you take care. Hope you're well, and sending you much love. Okay.